Chris, welcome to Movie Junk. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great and happy pre-Thanksgiving. It's great that we can get this chat in before Thanksgiving.
I was just going to say we caught you right before Thanksgiving, so the timing is perfect. We have producer and actor Chris Gaunt joining us today, who plays Robert in the new thriller Follow Her. If I'm not mistaken, it's currently sitting at a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Really excited to talk your upcoming projects and also a little bit more about you as well today.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, Follow Her was an amazing project that I had a chance to act in and then also executive produce. We got that film luckily in the can about a week or two before COVID shut down New York. We filmed the majority of that in the city and then north of New York, north of New York City. So we squeezed that in, we got it wrapped and in the can, and then it was all about post-production. And now it's really doing well on the international and domestic festival route. And it's being repped by XYZ and UTA Films. So I'm knocking on wood here. We'll get a terrific offer on that so the world can really enjoy this terrific female helm psychological thriller. We're excited about it.
If I'm not mistaken, was this your first thriller, or have you delved into the thriller genre before?
This was my first thriller. It was my first thriller in terms of acting in a thriller, and I've done, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 films. So this was the first psychological thriller that I was able to be cast in. And then I think, Zaya, because of my previous business background, I was kind of tapped to associate produce, and then they bumped me up to executive produce this, which was a wonderful experience. And such a terrific team led by the director, Sylvia Kaminer, and producer. And then Danny Barker, a young female writer who lives in Vancouver, she wrote it and she stars in it. And she's also a producer. We have a terrific cast. It was a blast to shoot. And it's a really, I think, well done psychological thriller that deals with social media. So it's very relevant in today's world.
Yeah, and this also sneaks in a Mad Men alum and Mark Moses. I'm a diehard Mad Men fan. He plays Duck.
Yes.
So he's also in this film as well. What was it like? I mean, being that you were the producer, what was it like working with him?
He is, and you probably hear this in other casts that you do, but literally one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Just such a nice, sweet guy, extremely down to earth, very humble. He sparked to the role, playing the character Jess's father. He does a great job in it, by the way. And he sparked to it really because of Danny Barker's writing. I mean, he really kind of fell in love with the writing and the premise of the story, you know, the log line and synopsis, but also the content of the story. And luckily we were able to get him because he was free for a few days that we needed him. And we actually shot him out the last day or two of filming. So he was at our wrap party toward the very end, actually the last day of filming. He was at our wrap party. So it was great to hang out with him in a really informal atmosphere. And then had a chance to hang with him last December 9th or 10th during the cast and crew screening in Brooklyn. That was a blast. He's just a great guy. I love him. And I've loved his work forever. A little bit of a fanboy. I've watched him in all of his feature films he's done and then his series work as well. He's a terrific actor, super humble, super down to earth, and just a good guy to chill out with and rap with. Really, really like him.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously extremely talented, been in the industry for many years. So, seeing him, that was one of the first cast members. I was like, oh man, I've watched multiple of his projects. So he was equally as excited to see him in a thriller as well, too, because it's something kind of different from what we're used to seeing him.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to want to see that as well.
And he plays kind of a very conservative dad, encouraging his daughter not to fall into the trap of doing what she's doing relative to the social media backdrop of this story. So as a father of my own to someone that's very similar in age to Jess, the lead actress or the lead character, Danny, I could relate to that. So as he was shooting that, or as we were shooting him, I could really relate to his character. And again, he was so gracious and cool to spark to an independent film like this. And we were just really, really lucky that we got him and he was available in New York. So I can't say enough about him. Super cool guy. Great to work with.
Amazing, amazing. And we're going to continue to, obviously, we'll share some more, media for the film as well. Hopefully it gets picked up as well too. But just from seeing some of the initial reviews, I mean, over a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, that's extremely high
Yes.
too. So, given that, I mean, you've worked a lot as a producer, are there specific projects that you like to kind of tie yourself with, or what exactly, aside from this, kind of what draws you to a project?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'm somewhat agnostic when it comes to particular genre. The thing that really attracted me to Follow Her as a great example is that it's a feature,
Yeah.
and it has some commercial appeal. In fact, it has a lot of commercial appeal. And like a lot of young, not young in age necessarily, but young in the business filmmakers, I say yes to a lot of projects because typically they're a pet project of someone. They're high in meaning or content. They're very feel good movies, which I still love to do. But
Yeah.
this was one when I agreed to work with Sylvia and Danny, the director and the writer, both producers. I sparked to it like they did because of its commercial appeal. And so it has that element of a terrific, very well written, very well directed, fantastic cinematographer and Luke Geisler, Oscar nominated. He's great. But also it has that lovely, silver lining. Again, I'm knocking on wood here that it has some commercial appeal. So we want the world to be able to enjoy this film as much as we did, helping bring it to life on film.
Definitely.
And I've worked a lot of different genres. I've worked dramas. I've worked, many real stories that are very personal, and I've sparked them because perhaps I know a family member or friend that has gone through something very similar to a film that we've brought to life via film. I've done a bunch of those, and I really like to explore different genres. I love dramas, I love comedies, I love thrillers, I love horror. So it's fun to explore the gamut. And fortunately, when folks are coming to me not only to act but also to help produce, you get a lot of screenplays in your inbox. So I've many to choose from. Can't say yes to all of them, unfortunately. I'd like to, but you can't. I say yes to a lot, and then I figure out how to do it after I say yes. So say yes and then figure out how to get it done.
As an aspiring screenwriter, I might have to take you up on maybe sending you a screenplay your way one of these days. And
Zaya, I would love to read your screenplay. I read screenplays every single day. In fact, I read 3 this morning. So I'm constantly reading screenplays, looking for, the next one that really lights my fire and gets me jazzed up. So sure, send away. I'd love to read it.
that would be a tremendous honor. What really excited me about sort of your journey, and what I was really excited about, getting us to finally meet, is that your journey is not the traditional one, right? So you made the switch into the film industry quite later in life,
I
right?
did.
I would say
I
maybe
did.
right. So I would like to, hear kind of what caused you to make that shift, because from my understanding,
Sure.
most of your experience initially was in the corporate world, and then to kind of give that up, so to speak, to shift into the film industry. I want to hear sort of like what inspired that, what sparked that, because I'm sure a lot of
Sure.
our audience would like to learn that as well too.
Yeah, and as a backdrop, I mean, I hope, so many people see this, not because I want them to see me, but I want them to feel that they can do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. But provided they're willing to work their tail off and take that leap into the 12-foot end of the deep pool. And that's kind of what I did. So to answer your question specifically, if you were interviewing me 5 years ago, I did not look like this. I had very short hair. I didn't have facial hair. I was not, acting on an everyday basis, producing, writing, and directing. So I was knee deep in more of a traditional business world environment, which treated me well. I mean, I really enjoyed that finance and marketing environment and sales environment for a very large company. And I think for 30 plus years. So I had the opportunity to win a very large award, kind of the Academy Award of the business world, about 6-7 years ago. And as I was accepting that award and looking out into the crowd, very much like an award ceremony, I looked over at my wife, and she didn't know this, my spouse, my partner of 30 years. And I was thinking to myself, this is it. I've kind of climbed that mountain. It sounds kind of corny, but I'm ready to exit stage left and then begin a second career, a second act. So shortly thereafter, we were on our living room couch, and this is after 32 years in the world of big business. I sat down with Kathy, my partner and wife of 30 plus years, and my kids, and I let them know that I wanted to pursue acting, producing, directing, and writing full time. And I had the opportunity to do that. Our kids were in college, exiting out of that on their own. Kathy is behind me. So we hopped in the car and we drove about 150, 200,000 miles for 3 years straight. And I said yes and auditioned to everything I had the privilege of getting. Anything I could get, I was auditioning for. So short films, student films, feature films, music videos, commercials. Just throw yourself into that. And I felt very fortunate, and blessed is overused sometimes, but blessed when they would say yes and you get that role, and then you just dive right in and learn as much as you can, and then on to the next job. And my objective was to do that, to learn as much as I could as quickly as possible, given that I got a fairly late start in this wonderful industry. So I say yes to everything with the intent of being able not to have to say yes to everything, as I can get more selective as I do this, 24/7, 7 days a week. It's all consuming in the best way.
So I'm curious, did you have the passion of film as a young age, but maybe life took you the traditional route, the business route? And then was it just because, business sort of came first? It was that immediate opportunity. So did you have that passion initially? It just, you weren't able to take the risk until later in life?
I did, yeah. And we had a premiere event this last Saturday, and I was on the panel, and someone asked a similar question. And my family, I'm one of four. I'm the oldest of four, and we were affectionately referred to as the rerun family, because anytime we were together as a family, anytime, or when guests came over, relatives or neighbors, after the pleasantries were exchanged, we were knee deep and two topics, typically really good film or films that we had seen, and then really good television that we had seen. And we would dissect the heck out of that. So how would I have cast that? How would I have directed it? What did we like about it? Where were there opportunity areas where we would have done it differently? And I remember doing that from the age of, say, 8 or 9 into adulthood. And my father passed away young. He passed away at 50. I was the oldest of four. So I kind of read the tea leaves and like, wow, I put myself through college, double majored, put myself through school. And then I had to make some money when I came out of college. I wasn't in a position at all to survive.
Yeah.
Being, there was no parachute at all for me. Not that there is with everyone. So I made the decision to go into a more traditional business route, always with the eye on the prize of being able, when the time was right, to do this full time. But I loved theater, and I also love sports. So those were two of my passions, still are: sports and theater, sports and film, sports and good television. So I've always hung on to those. And I think they're very similar. Sports is a team environment. You're diligent. You have to come together as a team very quickly in order to achieve a goal. Very similar to a theatrical production or a film production. It's very intense. It's a one team, one dream type mentality to get what you need to get done, and then you move on to the next project. So I found a lot of similarities there, and to this day I still love anything athletic and anything obviously entertainment driven, as I'm doing it constantly. So it was out of necessity to enter the business world, and then when the time was right, I was able to punt and go into the world of entertainment full time.
So the fan in me wants to know, what were the movies or actors or the topics of discussion, right? So were there any films or actors, actresses that inspired you at a young age?
Well, I'm looking at your bookshelf right now, and just about every book you have, and I'm looking at your posters, all of those. So as I look at Rocky and The Godfather, those were two that sparked, and really drove me in the most beautiful way when I was a kid. I mean, I'll never forget watching Rocky and thinking, having goosebumps when I was a young kid, and couldn't wait to watch that. And I've watched that movie 100 times, and all the subsequent films as well. Very similar. I think you have The Godfather there behind you, I believe, and all of them, right? I mean, they're all just amazing dramas. So not only fantastic works, but also fantastic directing, fantastic cinematography, fantastic scripts, fantastic acting, and those stories that carry you. So I love stories that, when you like hearing a good song, when you leave the theater, in this case, or the cinema, you have goosebumps and you just want to talk about it, see it again, and then just talk about it, not only the next day, but for weeks and months and years later. And that's what I find myself doing with films that I loved as a kid growing up. I still talk about them, 30, 40 years later, as though I saw those films yesterday. And that to me is a sign of a good film.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, definitely, like the likes of Rocky with Sylvester Stallone and the journey
Yeah.
that he went through just to get that film made and have him be the star. I mean, that alone is an inspiring. It's sort of been my passion as well, too. It's like, if you
Yes.
don't think it, actually write it, right? Or just don't
Yes.
in your mind, actually put it, put pen to paper. So it's exciting to see that the Rocky franchise is still alive. That's the makings that just how wonderful this film
Yeah.
was, and then we're seeing other versions of that with the Creed series. So yeah,
Yes.
really excited, and also with the Godfather too. A part of me is still hoping that maybe one day we can get a part 4. I know
I'm hoping.
it was
I'm
discussed
hoping.
in '99, but then with Mario Puzo passing away, it kind of slowed some things down. But I'd love to see another version of the Godfather, at least in the next 10 or
Oh
20.
my gosh. Me too. And I bet the Rocky story, and whether because social media is so prevalent, you can watch that Sylvester Stallone story. And I'm not exaggerating. I bet I've watched him tell that story at least 50 times.
Yeah,
The fact that he had the script, he was offered 250 or 300 or $400,000. He said no. He'd pull up on the producer's driveway and camp out there until he was such a thorn in his rear end that basically they bent to his demands. Like, not only am I'm going to sell this, but I'm going to star in it. And I loved him so much because, if I recall, he basically said, hey, I've been poor, I've lived in a van, I've lived with very little material possessions. I'm not going to sell my soul to get that money. I'm going to make this happen because I created it, and I'm going to star in it. And 50 years later, the rest is history. It's just the gift that keeps on giving through a lot of hard work. I
yeah.
mean, this industry is tough, man. So I love his stick-to-itiveness, his grit, his passion, and his toughness not to cave and just sell it because it was easy. He stuck to his guns. And I love that mentality. That's the sports mentality in me, I think.
100% too. And also too, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure you've probably come across this recently, but the Fonz was doing an interview where he was
Yeah,
saying that like he initially had access to the script, and I don't
I
know,
saw that.
to like
Yeah,
ABC or somebody, and like Sylvester needed the script back, which usually once it's kind of given away, like that's usually a no-go. But the
yes.
Fonz usually had some sort of attachment to Rocky or Sylvester, so to speak. So that was a really interesting story. I never had heard that until recently.
Yeah, so Sylvester Stallone is with his dog Butkus and his wife, his first wife at the time, breaks down on Santa Monica Boulevard, calls Henry Winkler, the Fonz. The Fonz picks him up. He has the script. They end up pitching it off to a studio, and then the Fonz has to go back kind of with his tail between his legs, Henry Winkler saying, we need it back. And it had never happened before, but because Happy Days at the time was the #1 show, he had some cachet and some credibility in the industry. So he was able to get that script back. And again, the rest is history. And I had no idea until I saw that interview, the same one that you're referring to, that Henry Winkler and Sylvester had any history. I had no idea. That's one piece that I had not known. So it just seems like, again, it's these great stories of perseverance and stick-to-itiveness. And again, 50 years later, that franchise is stronger than ever. It's just the gift that keeps on giving. So cool.
Yeah, right before Rocky, I think the movie was called Paradise Alley.
Yes.
I think it was right before. So they actually had done a movie together. So I'm not sure if that was the first time that they had worked together or if they were friends before that.
Yeah.
It was right around that time, right before Rocky. Maybe it was 75. Because
Had to
Rocky
be.
was 76. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was insane to hear.
That's amazing.
Just because we're on the topic of Rocky, the fan in me has to also ask, what's your favorite Rocky film?
I think Rocky 1 is my favorite. And the reason is I was a very young, impressionable kid, very athletic. I loved, football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf. I was so immersed in athletics. And also my neighbor happened to be a professional boxer. So my best friend growing up was a guy named Andrew. His older brother was a professional boxer named Greg, being trained by a middleweight named Carmen Basilio, who was famous in the 40s or 50s. And this goes back to 76. This is a long time ago. And I remember Greg training in our neighborhood. He'd have the Rocky hooded sweatshirt on. He'd have the gloves. He'd be shadow boxing and doing his road work in the morning, getting up super early and doing those miles. So it was just a perfect storm for me, being an impressionable young kid, being extremely athletic, feeling those goosebumps. And I've never seen anything like that. You know, that rags to riches story that was just so beautifully done, and in every way. I'll never forget that. And that was 1976. So it proves, you know, I've been around a while, but I remember watching that in the theaters several times like it was yesterday and saying, oh my God, this is the best movie I've ever seen in my life. I just loved it for all those reasons. And my neighbors, my best friend's brother was a professional boxer. So during 76, 77, 78, 79, we'd go watch him box constantly. So it was just a perfect storm.
I'm going to be honest, I'm extremely jealous. I wish I could say that I saw the first Rocky film in theaters. Believe it or not, the very first Rocky movie that I had a chance to see in theaters was Rocky Balboa, which was 2000.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get a chance to see. I think I was like 2 when 5 came out.
Yeah.
Just to sit and actually see. I don't know if the right term is like the nostalgia feeling, but I had tears a little bit when I first saw him, kind of, because the beginning of the movie's sad. You know, he's seeing Adrian and then snap out of it, and everything's coming full circle in the beginning. But to say that you were there for the first Rocky, I mean, that's unbelievable. I kind of toggle between 1 and 2, between which one's my favorite. I kind of lean towards part 2, just because the part where he sees Apollo kind of coming in, they're getting ready to fight, and Mickey's like, what's going on, and then Rocky's like, that man is great, you know what I mean, like, I was hoping he wouldn't show. And then like I'm like, you just went toe to toe with him the first fight, right? You're just as equally as good as he is, but just the humbleness was just so something that you just felt like you related to.
Oh, absolutely.
It was just unbelievable, and it's yet to have been replicated in my opinion.
Oh, I agree. He was questioning himself, and why am I here? Why do I have the right to even be in the same ring as this guy? This guy is a legend. And then Paulie is like, dude, I mean, you fared so well in the first. I mean, it was an amazing fight. And if I recall, the first one was, ain't going to be no rematch. And then Apollo, I said, or maybe Rocky said, don't want one. I don't know if it was Apollo Creed who said it or Rocky, but I just love that line. Yeah, it was a great line, right? And then what a great setup or precursor to Rocky 2, when of course there is a rematch. And then again, the rest is history. So it still gives me goosebumps. I still have goosebumps. If you can see my arm right now, full of goosebumps, and the hairs are straight up. It's just, I love sports movies. First one I fell in love with the Brian Piccolo story, going way back to the early 70s. I mean, I love football, and that was just such a beautiful film. So since I've been a young kid, I've loved sports movies and those feel-good movies. I love all genres, but those really tug at my heartstrings in a good way.
Is there still somebody that you are aspiring to work with, whether it's from an acting capacity or making your next film? Is there an actor, actress that you're hoping to where, I know it's probably hard to narrow into one, but is there one specific one that you'd be like, man, if I can shoot this person, I'd do it tomorrow?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think even more so than actors, probably directors I'd really dig working with. We'd all love to work. I'm painting a broad brush here, but with a Martin Scorsese or a Quentin Tarantino. I mean, the legends of the industry relative to Terrence Malick. There's just so many amazing directors. Wes Anderson, I think he's fantastic. I had a chance to do a movie. I was in a one-day scene with Owen Wilson in a really quirky comedy called Paint a year ago in April, and he was a great actor. So he was such a sweet comedic genius that I would love to be able to have spent more time on set with him and work with some of the people that have been around a while. Not that I don't love up and comers, because I'm one, but the folks that are proven not commodities, but proven brands and trusted because they deliver film in and film out. And that's why I said I'm a little agnostic relative to genre, because I love amazing comedic actors as much as I love great dramatic actors. Or great thriller actors, because it's really hard. It's really hard to be a solid, believable, convincing actor. There's a lot of bad ones out there, but it's really hard, in my opinion, to be a good one where people are vested with you and interested, and they're along for the ride because they believe in what you're portraying on screen. Not easy. Doable, just not easy. So any strong actor, I'd love to work with any of them.
Yeah.
How about you?
Me myself, I kind of lean towards the same route, is that there's just maybe I'd lean towards a specific filmmaker. I just
Yeah.
think being in the presence of Martin Scorsese would be unbelievable. Same with Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
If I had to choose an actor, I would say either the likes of Sylvester Stallone or even Eddie Murphy. I've had the privilege of meeting Sylvester Stallone, and we actually interviewed Frank Stallone, I'd say a little over a year ago. That was also surreal. Just he was in the original Rocky and the sequel, and
Yeah,
a lot of
of
score.
course. Yeah,
So that
know him
just,
well. Yeah. Oh my God. That's amazing, by the way. That's so cool. That is really, really cool.
thank you.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
But yeah,
Good job to you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I usually like to leave off with, asking the guest whenever you guys are not working, right? What are
Yeah.
the shows that you guys are binge watching? When you guys are fans, say you're streaming Netflix, what are you either maybe binge watching right now, or what are you looking most forward to?
Yeah, I think the shows that I've binged, Kathy and I have binged recently. I mean, not so recently, but over the years. I'm a huge, huge, huge Peaky Blinders fan. So, and going back, if we could reverse this, when you said a few minutes ago, who would you want to work with? Cillian Murphy. I mean, oh my gosh, if I had a chance to, that would be total fanboyism on me, because I've been in love with Peaky Blinders, that entire series since day one. And I've watched that series a number of times from start to finish because I feel it's that good. I felt that Bloodline was amazing. I felt that Ozark was amazing. And these are all series that are so well done, so well acted, so well produced, so well shot. Films that are episodics typically, but they're shot like a film. We started watching Yellowstone recently. Fantastic, really well done. So those are some that come to mind that we have binged, and we'll continue to binge and go back. And I think the mark of a good series is, you go back to them over and over again. If you really dig them, you keep going back and saying, there's probably bits and pieces I missed, and I loved it so much. And I'll reference Peaky Blinders again, where every time I see an episode of that show, it's like watching it the first time, even though I know it's coming. You miss something, or it's just, you're blown away by how good the acting is.
Yeah. Is there anything greater than just seeing Arthur, drunk and beaten, and then just getting brought up, getting motivated to come back up, and then just fight and beat up somebody? He always has that, that underdog going to get him to build back up, where he's drunk and then ends up beating the crap out of somebody.
Yeah.
From what I heard too, they're discussing possibly making a movie of it as
So
well.
yes, I was totally bummed out when the last season, Kathy and I binged the last season, and I'm boohooing about it. But then right around the same time, I'm following the tracks because I follow all those actors on social media and the show. And there's rumors, I'm not sure if it's public yet or not, where they will be shooting a movie, and supposedly a film coming out in 2023. So we don't have to wait that long. And if there's ever a movie that they should make, it's that, because so many people love the series. I have to imagine that would be an incredibly strong film for the world to see, that maybe haven't latched onto the series, or someone like me that loves the series. I'll be the first one to buy tickets to that film.
Yeah, no, definitely. And from what I heard is, like, I mean, it's obviously very large and popular overseas, right? So they have like Peaky Blinders Day and like different festivals. So it's much bigger over in like the UK, and they even get it aired before
Yes.
we were on Netflix. So yeah,
On the BBC. Yeah, they aired on the BBC before us. They had it, I think, a couple of months before it was on Netflix.
yeah.
It aired in April or May, and then we had to wait until June for the final season on Netflix. But that's okay. It was worth the wait.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Speaking of Yellowstone, Tulsa King, which is basically marrying, Yellowstone and like The Sopranos, where it's got
Sylvester
and Sylvester, right? And
yeah
as well too. So I mean, the first two episodes were awesome. Going into it, I mean, it's kind of like a Get Shorty meets The Sopranos. So
yes,
it as like a car. Have you watched it yet?
No, in fact, I was talking to some friends that we are big cinema buffs, and we can't wait to watch it. So that's on my list. In fact, I'm looking at my desk right now. That's the number one show that we have to begin we have to begin watching. So I can't wait to watch it. And I'm a huge Sylvester fan, so I'm excited to watch that one.
You'll laugh a lot. Like it's really funny. And again, like go into it. Like the best way to explain it is like the Get Shorty type of comedy.
Yeah,
And then
brilliant.
it does have the serious elements, like you would see in the mob, like a Sopranos or a Boardwalk Empire. But the first
Ah,
two
great
episodes
shows.
were really good.
Great shows. Hey, I'm excited. I know we have to wrap it up, but I just recently attached to an episodic that you may get a kick out of. It's called The Fledgling, and it's a vampiric. So it's 8 episodes, brilliantly written by a young writer-director, Joe Gettle, who's probably 33 years old. And we are able to attach Juliet Landau, Martin Landau's daughter, Barbara Bain's daughter. She played Drusilla in Buffy. So we were able to shoot the sizzle and short. We also grabbed, were able to attach Anastasia Veronica Lee, who's a 12-year-old actress out of New York. And she recently worked with Dustin Hoffman and Candice Bergen. So we have the sizzle in the can, and that will be done December 26th. And then it's all about gaining the funding needed for the pilot and the remaining 7 episodes. So that is a terrific one that we're really excited about. And it gives Juliet a chance to kind of reprise some of her vampire roots from when she played Drusilla in Buffy. And she's a fabulous actress, as well as Anastasia Veronica Lee. So that's been a lot of fun to act in, and as well as executive produce. So, and I've got about 10 other projects going. So I don't stop, man. Go, go, go.
Amazing, amazing. And we're going to be sure to share some of the projects too, and also how fans can access them as well. So I was
Okay.
excited for us to connect, and I always like to leave some room for round 2, so we can bring you back and talk these projects once they're actually out and the fans have had a chance to see them as well. But
Fantastic.
I sneak out as well without, just because this is a special Thanksgiving episode as well. What are your Thanksgiving?
Nice. So my Thanksgiving plans are, my mom is 83 years old. I'm the oldest of 4. So all of our family will be visiting with my mom in Central New York. We live in New York, so we'll go to Central New York and visit with my mom. My sister's hosting a big dinner. And the only person that won't be able to join us is my younger brother. He's in Jacksonville, Florida, so he won't make the trip. So we'll have a huge gathering, and that'll be Thanksgiving Day. And then, of course, I'm going to watch my Buffalo Bills try to win and improve to, I think, 7-3, or 7 or 8-3. So they're having a good year. I'm a big Josh Allen fan, so we'll watch some good football on Thanksgiving. And then when I come back on Friday, it's right back into pre-production on 5 or 6 projects I'm working, as well as acting in 3 films coming up through, oh my gosh, December, January, February, March, and April. So it's go, go, go. And we'll squeeze Christmas in there too.
I was just going to say, I was just in New York this past weekend, and man, it was cold. I'm actually barely getting my voice back from how cold it was, and it wasn't even that bad for folks that are used to New York. But like being from the West Coast, we get kind of nervous when it's like in the 50s here, right? And Buffalo had a ton of snow when we were there, so it was starting to kind of slowly trickle down into the New York area. So yeah, wishing you guys continue to.
Thank you.
Good luck to the Bills as well, and excited that the family's getting together. And it sounds like you guys are going to be talking some more movie shop as well too.
As soon as we land, we'll take our coats off, have a cold cocktail, some hors d'oeuvres, and we'll start talking films, and what we're all binging. So that's what we always do, and then we'll throw on the football games. It's films and sports. But you have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well.
You too, Chris. Thank you very much for making the time. Would love to have you back.
Thank you.
Again sometime, and can't wait to share with the fans and also your upcoming projects.
You were amazing. Thank you for the time. It was great catching up with you. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Have a great holiday. See you.